Imagine you're standing at the edge of the Amazon rainforest. You might think all you'd see are some colorful parrots or maybe just an endless wall of green. But what you'd actually see is something so dense, so layered, so aggressively alive that your brain genuinely struggles to process it. You're still not prepared. If you want to get to the most biodiverse place on Earth, you'd have to get into the heart of the Amazon basin, a region in South America so teeming with life that even the world's best biologists have spent entire careers there and still haven't named everything in it. And of course, in a world so lush and so abundant, you'd expect a lot to actually be there. But for anyone who really knows what's going on inside that jungle, the reality is so much stranger than you'd ever imagine. So, what actually exists in the most diverse place on Earth? Well, to understand exactly what is surviving in the Amazon, we first have to understand what the Amazon even is. Most people think of a rainforest and they picture some tall trees, a few monkeys, maybe a jaguar prowling around. But the Amazon isn't just a rainforest, it is a living machine. It covers over 5.5 million square kilometers across 9 countries, and it produces so much oxygen and recycles so much water that scientists have generally started calling it the lungs of the planet. Except calling it lungs is actually underselling it. The Amazon doesn't just breathe for itself, it creates its own weather. The trees release so much water vapor that they generate what are called flying rivers, massive invisible streams of moisture moving through the air that carry more water than the actual Amazon River itself, and deliver rainfall to the rest of South America. The forest is essentially engineering the climate of an entire continent from the inside out. And the Amazon River that runs through it is its own insane story. It is the largest river on Earth by volume, discharging more fresh water into the ocean than the next 7 biggest rivers combined. It's so wide in places that if you're standing on one bank, you literally cannot see the other side. And within this river lives something most people don't even know exists: the pink river dolphin. Not a metaphor, not a myth. A fully pink dolphin that evolved in a freshwater river surrounded by jungle, completely isolated from the ocean for so long that it became its own species. And it is genuinely just pink. Evolution is not subtle here. But the real insanity of the Amazon isn't the river, it's the layering. To understand what makes the Amazon so uniquely absurd, you have to understand that it isn't one environment. It's at least 4 stacked on top of each other, each one completely different, each one home to entirely different creatures that may never even encounter the ones living just 30 feet above or below them. At the very top is the emergent layer. These are the giants, individual trees that have grown so tall they've punched clean through the main canopy and now stand completely alone in the open sky, sometimes reaching 60 meters high. Up here, Harpy eagles nest. The Harpy eagle is the largest and most powerful bird of prey in the Americas, and it is genuinely terrifying to look at. It has a face that looks like it's personally offended by your existence. Its talons are the size of grizzly bear claws. It can snatch a full-grown howler monkey right out of the upper canopy while flying. It doesn't hunt small things. It hunts things that most birds wouldn't even consider looking at. Below the emergent giants is the main canopy, which sits at around 30 to 45 meters and forms an almost unbroken ceiling of leaves that blocks out roughly 98% of the sunlight below it. This is the most active zone. Toucans, spider monkeys, sloths, and hundreds of species of snake all compete for a space in a single continuous highway of branches that stretches in every direction for millions of square kilometers. Sloths spend almost their entire lives here, moving so slowly that algae literally grows on their fur. This sounds like a disadvantage until you realize that this algae is green and works as active camouflage, and that the sloths actively encourage it. They have evolved a symbiotic relationship with the algae on their own body. A sloth is not just a sloth. A sloth is a moving ecosystem. Then comes the understory. Dark, humid, and almost completely still. Very little sunlight makes it down here. The plants that survive are built specifically to capture whatever stray beams punch through the canopy above them. This is where the poison dart frog lives. These frogs are the size of a thumbnail and come in colors so bright they look like someone left a bag of candy in the jungle. Neon red, electric blue, vivid yellow. And the reason they're so bright is extremely simple. It's a warning. Their skin secretes toxins so potent that a single golden poison dart frog carries enough to kill 10 adult humans. Indigenous hunters have used them to tip blowgun darts for centuries, which is where the name comes from. But the strange part is that these frogs don't produce the toxin themselves. They get it from the specific ants and mites they eat, which have trace amounts of the compound. A poison dart frog raised in captivity and fed a different diet isn't actually poisonous. The frog is just a delivery mechanism. The real weapon is the food chain. And at the very bottom is the forest floor. Here's where things get genuinely strange. Almost no light, constant moisture, temperatures that barely change year-round, and the most aggressive recycling operation on the planet. Nothing stays dead in the Amazon. A dead animal on the forest floor can be completely consumed within hours by a combination of insects, fungi, and bacteria so efficient that the nutrients are back in the soil and climbing back up into the trees before the day is even out. The dominant force on the forest floor is something most people walk right past without even registering as a threat. Army ants. A single army ant colony can contain up to 700,000 individuals. They don't build nests. They move constantly, consuming everything in their path. When an army ant swarm is on the move, it can stretch 100 meters wide and kill and dismember thousands of insects, small reptiles, and even baby birds in a single raid. Other species have actually evolved entire behaviors around army ant swarms. Certain birds called ant birds follow the swarm specifically to catch the insects that are fleeing from it. The ant birds aren't working with the ants. They're just exploiting the chaos. The ecosystem is so layered that one species hunting creates a second hunting opportunity for a completely different species that's doing nothing but watching. But even the army ants aren't the most impressive engineers on the forest floor. That title belongs to something much smaller: leafcutter ants. A leafcutter colony can strip a medium-sized tree completely bare in under 24 hours. But here's the part that sounds made up. They don't eat the leaves. They carry the leaves back to their underground nests, which can be the size of a small house and go 8 meters deep. And they use the leaves as a growing medium for a specific fungus that the colony has been cultivating for millions of years. The ants farm the fungus feeds the colony, and the colony needs the leaves to grow the fungus. They developed agriculture. Not recently, 50 million years ago. Humans figured out farming around 10,000 years ago. Leafcutter ants beat us by 50 million years, and they did it underground, in the dark, without hands. And just like the Mariana Trench had its microbes living off toxic chemicals with zero sunlight, the Amazon has its own invisible layer of life that most people never think about: the soil. One handful of Amazon soil contains more microbial organisms than there are humans on Earth. These microbes are doing the same job the seafloor vents are doing in the deep ocean. They are cycling nutrients, breaking down toxins, and building the chemical foundation that every plant, insect, and animal above them depends on. Without the microbes in the soil, the whole system collapses. The trees die, the canopy opens, the humidity drops, the flying rivers stop, and the continent starts to dry out. The most important creatures in the most biodiverse place on Earth are ones you can't even see. And then there are the things we actually have found that still barely seem real. The bullet ant, widely considered to have the most painful sting of any insect on Earth. Schmidt's Sting Pain Index, a scale scientists actually created to measure this, puts the bullet ant at a level 4, which is the maximum rating. The description on the scale reads pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. And that pain lasts 24 hours straight. Some indigenous tribes in the Amazon use bullet ant gloves as a rite of passage, where young men wear woven gloves filled with hundreds of live ants for 10 minutes. The stings cause uncontrolled shaking and temporary paralysis of the hand. This is done voluntarily and multiple times. The Amazon has been humbling humans for a very long time. Of course, even the Amazon isn't untouched. We've done the same thing here that we've done to the Mariana Trench, except we can actually see it happening in real time. The Amazon has lost roughly 17% of its total forest cover in the last 50 years. And 17% sounds manageable until you realize what that forest was actually doing. Scientists believe the Amazon is approaching what they call a tipping point, a threshold where enough forest is lost that the whole system stops being able to generate its own rainfall. The flying rivers stop. The remaining forest starts to dry out from the inside. Trees that survived for thousands of years start dying, not because anyone cut them down, but because the system that was keeping them alive is gone. A rainforest that stops raining. The whole thing could self-destruct, not dramatically, but quietly, patch by patch, until what's left looks more like a savanna. The craziest part is that we've barely cataloged what's in there. Scientists estimate we've identified maybe 10% of the species in the Amazon. Every single expedition into the interior comes back with new species, new behaviors, new chemical compounds in plant life that pharmaceutical companies are actively racing to study. In 2023 alone, researchers described over 500 new species from the Amazon region. We are still discovering things that have been there longer than our entire civilization. Some of those undiscovered plants might hold cures to diseases we're still trying to solve. We don't know. We haven't looked yet. People want to believe the Amazon is mostly big animals because big things are easy to see and easy to fear. But the real Amazon isn't the jaguar, even though the jaguar is generally beautiful and terrifying. The real Amazon is the leafcutter ant farming underground, the sloth growing its own camouflage, the poison dart frog eating the right insects to become a weapon, the microbes holding the whole engine together in absolute darkness, the flying rivers that no one can see, but the entire continent depends on. The Amazon isn't just a place, it's an argument that life, when given enough time and space and moisture, will find a way to fill every single available niche until the whole thing becomes so interconnected that pulling on any one thread starts unraveling all of them at once. The most diverse place on Earth isn't terrifying because of what's in it. It's terrifying because of how much of it we could lose before we even know what we had.